Before you dive into a relationship, ask yourself, do you know who you are? Chances are you probably don't, or maybe you know yourself a little bit. And if you don't know who you are, you don't know what you want. And this usually leads into a relationship of misery and suffering because you're choosing someone just out of just cuz you may run into someone that you don't even know that well, that you even like look for intentionally, and you just kind of end up in a relationship. And this is where it starts. Before you get into a relationship, you have to know who you are, to know what you want in order to go find what you're looking for. And we're going to dive into that in this video. This is from real life experience. This is not some shit I've read online, some books I read, and here's like my opinion or two. No, this is literally from years and years of experience and years of coaching other people as well. I'm going to be sharing some concepts with you. I'm going to share some real life examples with you. We're going to go a little bit personal. We're going to go deep. So brace yourself and enjoy. And also just remember, this is a series I'm going to be doing. So this is just a warm up. We're going to go a lot deeper in the series. So just brace yourself and enjoy the video. Before you even get started in a relationship, first thing you gotta understand is who you are and where you are right now. Most people jump into a relationship from completely scarcity and having holes within themselves. So what they usually do is they have a fear of being alone, and they don't want to be alone, or they're not happy with where they are right now by themselves, and they look for comfort for external to fill holes internally. And starting a relationship from that point of view is always going to lead you to some either miserable relationship or like a miserable breakup at some point. I mean, people usually get addicted to their partner based on just what they're escaping. Okay, so before you even think about getting into a relationship, this is what you need to understand. You need to understand that you are, not even understand, you have to really realize this before you jump in, that you are full. You're completely happy on your own, you're fulfilled. Now, chances are you're like, I don't feel that way about myself. And this is exactly what this video will be about. How to expose where you're missing yourself and why you're looking externally to fill that hole within yourself. Okay, so we'll dive into that, but overview is understand yourself before you jump into relationships. One of two things will happen. One, you'll be miserable in a relationship. You're always gonna be the person that doesn't have the power, and you're gonna be addicted to your partner, and they're gonna call the shots, and it's gonna be an imbalanced relationship. And number two, when it doesn't blow up in your face, which it will, you go through a breakup, it will be the worst breakup of your life. Okay, now before you even think about getting into a relationship, you need to understand something very fundamentally. Number one, most people start dating from fear, lack, anxiety, and craving and desire not in a good way, desire from a place of craving and needing and being needy, not from a place of wholeness. Okay, so the ideal situation is this: you're happy by yourself, you have a an ecosystem of happiness where you like your hobbies, you like your friends, you like your relationships that you're in. I'm talking about friendship wise, relationship wise, casual casual relationships, as well as hobbies, and you love your work, and you honestly just could be happy by yourself sitting at home doing what you're supposed to be doing, or just staying still. Okay, if you're not there right now, and 9 out of 10 times the chances are you're not there right now, you need to do a scan, and I'm going to go into that in a second. Fundamentally, you do understand that. Now, in order for you to become whole, where it really comes from is facing the worst of your worst fears and also facing that desire, the cravingness. The way to really start that process of becoming whole before you go start looking externally to fulfill your internal holes, you need to do some of these exercises. Now, I'm going to give you an example. This is something I've done myself as well. If you sit by yourself and ask yourself, will I be okay being alone for the rest of my life? Tune into what comes up. So it's not about really logically answering that question. It's more about internally feeling what comes up. And 9 out of 10 times what will happen is you will start feeling some kind of anxiety, fear, some kind of maybe even mental movies of you being alone and it's just never going to work out and you're never going to be happy. And that's exactly what you want to feel. and you want to accept that reality for what it is. What if you are alone? I remember when I first did this, I felt the most intense fear as well. But once I felt it fully and accepted that reality is a possibility, it never really haunted me again. I never really felt like lonely or alone, or if I'm missing out, if I'm not in a relationship. Completely happy being single. So focus on that. Like, what does that really feel like? Dive into that and let go of that. Until you don't let go of that, yo, is that still recording? Till you face this and completely let go of this, you'll always be running away from the fear that you might be alone at some point. And then that will actually decide whether you should be in a relationship or not. And 9 out of 10 times what happens is, out of desperation, you pick the wrong person. You pick the wrong person, you're in a relationship that you don't even want to be in, but you can't walk away because you don't want to go back to that loneliness, that fear. And the sad reality is, and I'm sure you guys, you know a few people that are in a relationship that are just miserable, but they can't walk away. Both sides are just there because, well, rather be this than that, because they just can't let go of this fear. Okay, but fear is not the only thing that runs us into running into people and committing when we shouldn't, and desperately looking for relationships. It's also seeking comfort, because we cannot handle being alone. We don't have any kind of confidence. We're comfort seekers. We also have intense, deep desire and neediness to be with someone, to have just somebody there, because the void is too much to face. So number one thing here is, before we dive into the actual relationship, actionable stuff, and actually like a relationship from a logical standpoint, you have to do an audit and write down everything that is driving that motivation to be with somebody. Because 9 out of 10 times what will happen is probably it's not pure as you think. It's not inspirational. It's more desperation than anything. Okay, it's again fear, cravings, neediness, trying to find wholeness within, from the external than within. The thing is, you already are whole. You just haven't realized it, because there's a lot of internal work you have to do to let go of those things, and then realizing that you're whole is automatic. Okay, so we'll dive into that a little bit later, but we'll kind of keep going with this. When you don't know who you are, okay, you sitting by yourself doing this internal deep work, which is not as hard as it sounds, and it doesn't take that long either. It's just that most people don't have the exact blueprint to do it, and they just jerk off all day. That's basically it is. They think they're doing some internal work, but they're just jerking off. They're not really doing anything. There's a practical step-by-step guide, and once you have that, it doesn't take that long to realize these things and move forward. Okay, everyone's timeline is different, but it shouldn't take you more than a couple of months to really just let go of this permanently and actually move forward in life. Okay, now when you don't know who you are, what you will attract is most likely confusion. Because if you don't know who you are, you don't know what you want, you think you know what you want, and then you think knowing what you want drives you into people that necessarily are not the best fit for you, or the best fit for themselves. I'll say that again. It's not the best fit for you, and you're not the best fit for them. Then there's no wrong or rights in life. It's all about capability. It's all about compatibility and finding the better version of yourself that fits into the better version of them. Okay. You don't find yourself in a relationship. You lose yourself in a relationship if you don't find yourself from beforehand. So everything in life is external. Everything in life is an extension of who you are. Okay. If you are lonely and miserable before a relationship, you're going to be lonely and miserable in a relationship. If you are completely shit with money when you're poor, you're going to be shit with money when you are rich. Okay. If you're an asshole by yourself, you're going to be an asshole in a relationship. If you're an asshole being poor, you're going to be an asshole with money. You're going to be a bigger fucking asshole. Everything is an extension of who you are, and everything really just exposes who you were before that. Okay? So if you're in a relationship and you're lonely and you're miserable before that, you're going to be lonely and miserable in a relationship. If you have anger issues before the relationship, if you have had anger issues before the relationship, those anger issues are going to amplify themselves in a relationship. If you are afraid and you have anxiety and you're anxious and everything is just scary for you because that's your worldview, guess what's gonna fucking happen when you're in a relationship? That's gonna get amplified as well. You're always gonna be coming up with different stories like, oh, what if they're cheating on me? What if they leave me? What if this happens? What if that happens? What if? It just really amplifies that. You think that you being lonely, logically it makes sense. I understand where you guys coming from. If you're lonely before a relationship, getting someone will kill that loneliness. But that's not what happens. Usually what happens is that loneliness doesn't really have to do anything externally, it's more internally. Because some people can be by themselves and not feel loneliness. Because being alone and loneliness are two different things. And I'm telling you, being in a relationship and feeling lonely is way worse than being lonely not in a relationship. That's where you're hopeless. That's when you're like, wow, I'm in a relationship and I still feel like shit. I feel alone. What am I doing wrong here? Now, loneliness is a completely separate topic that I'm going to dive into eventually, but we'll keep going with the relationship here. Last thing I'll say on this section is real love comes from you no longer seeking to get something from someone. It's solely focused on what you can give. And that only comes from when you feel full within yourself, when you have a full cup. And you find someone with a full cup as well, and then you both parties give each other instead of what they can take. Now you can only attract someone who feels full once you feel full yourself. Now, section number 2. Most relationship problems start with picking the wrong person. Okay? Most people just find someone, anyone that wants to be with me, please be with me. And what ends up happening is you just end up with anyone. If this is not like a conscious, focused effort in your life, you're just gonna end up with anything. Same as like a job, right? If you want a certain job in a certain industry, in a certain position with certain culture values, then you're gonna go for that, and then you're gonna take action towards that. And 9 out of 10 times what will happen is you will get that. But if you take someone who just wants a job, just wants money, well, they'll just kind of apply randomly here and there, spray and pray, and they're just gonna end up with something. And then later they're gonna be like, oh, I don't like this job, this is horrible. Well, you should take conscious effort towards that. Same thing applies with relationships, but for some reason, when it comes to our relationships, we have been fed so much bullshit from legacy media, from movies, from our parents who were like born and raised in the 70s, from our peers. They just think there's this magical thing that just like, well, if you're meant to be, you're just gonna find someone. Like you're just gonna manifest some perfect partner out of your asshole, and then you're gonna get married. And that's how people go about finding relationships. They just end up with someone. Like they just go around. On dating apps and friends of friends and parties and clubs and bars, and they just end up with someone. And then they're like, oh, well, this person is this, and they start playing the victim and bitching about it. But really, you should take responsibility and understand that you're the one who found them, then decided to be with them, and then committed to them. All those decisions led up to your miserable life and your miserable relationship, and it has nothing to do with that partner. If you're gonna hang out in a bad neighborhood and get stabbed, is it your fault or the neighborhood's fault? It's your fault. It's obviously your fault, because if you know you shouldn't go in that area because something bad can happen, well, yeah, there's bad people that are going to do bad things that you can't really control. So there's going to be people that are not meant to be with you, that are going to do bad things to you, they're going to cheat on you, they're going to lie to you. It's your fault for attracting them and then deciding to be with them. Okay? So you need to understand who you fucking want. You need to understand. Well, first you need to understand who you are, and we talked about that already. And then after you know who you are, then only then you can kind of know which direction you want to go into, what kind of person resonates with you, what kind of person you actually want, what kind of person will make you happy. And we're going to dive into that now. There's 3 core fundamental principles when it comes to understanding what you would want romantically. Now, just understanding this doesn't mean anything. You have to put it into practice and get a few repetition out of the way to learn more and more what you like, what you don't like. If you never had a relationship, there's nothing I can tell you more than just go out there. And I'm not saying commit and get married to the first person. I'm just saying casually date, and you quickly understand what you want, what you don't want. Okay. Now, I'm sure most of you had some success in some relationships, so you kind of do understand this already. But these are the three sections that you need to understand fundamentally. I'll go with the most. There's this one really important one, and then the other two are kind of like the same. Okay. Number one, are you sexually attracted to that person? Yes or no? Boom. You know that or not, right? That's very easy to understand. Sexually attracted? Yeah, she's hot. I'm hot. Or he's hot. Cool. I'm hot. Cool. We're good. Okay, that's done. Number two, emotional compatibility. Emotionally, do you guys vibe? Do you guys feel something more than friendship for each other? The little tingling, right? And we understand that very well. We have had crushes since middle school. We understand when we emotionally like someone or not. Now, where someone should just be our friend. Okay? So that's out of the way. I don't need to explain that to you. You know in your gut feeling you like someone, you have a little crush, whatever. Okay, that's easy. And those are the two things we basically check off when we like someone. We're like, okay, well, I like her sexually, boom. I like this person emotionally, boom. And okay, we should be together now. The number three thing, which is the third quadrant, not the quadrant, the third part of the triangle is the one we miss the most because Disney and our media and our friends and family has brainwashed this shit out of the way, which is the logically, does it make sense for me to be with this person? Now, that could mean different things for different people. So I'll kind of give you a list of what you should really look for. Number one, whatever's important to you, by the way, right? So I'll give you my list, right? And then you can kind of understand what list you should check off as well. Okay. So logically, does this make sense for me to be this person? Number one, do we have similar values? This is the number one thing for me. If that person has completely different values in life, different priorities in life, then we're always just going to be fighting each other based on that. The fundamental principle is that you don't want to take someone and force them to be someone they're not. You have to find someone who is the way you want them to be from before you met them. Okay? And those are the fundamental things that you can't really change. There's two things, right? There's the things you can coach. There's the things you cannot coach. I can't coach someone's values and priorities. That's just who they are. Or cultural values, or religious value, or political views. That's too deep. I can't really coach that out of people. What I can coach is like small things like, hey, maybe you shouldn't hang out with that person. I don't like them. Or hey, maybe you should contribute more in this part of your life than that, right? Those are certain things you can coach. There's certain things you cannot coach. So when it comes to values, for me, I can't really coach that. That person has to know loyalty. That person has to know honesty, integrity. They need to know like their priorities, which should be family first, friends first, then other things. They shouldn't be like escaping their life all the time. There's so many different things, right? But you understand that. Values are one of them. They have to be something similar to my cultural background because that plays a huge part in my life. And if they just don't understand it, then it's just going to be a misalignment for me, right? So I'll give you an example. I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and she comes over wearing like the shortest shorts you will ever see in your life to my parents' place, right? This is like a long time ago. And you know, she was raised in a certain way, we were raised in a certain way. The way I was raised, like if an adult walks in, you get up, you know, you kind of like say hi and you let them sit first before you sit down. It's really like based on respect. But you know, she's wearing the shortest shorts and then she's just chilling on the sofa. And my dad walked in, he was kind of confused, like, why is this girl wearing literally almost naked on the sofa on her phone and didn't even come say hi and didn't even have the respect to do any of that. And I was also learning that, oh wow, she didn't do that. That's the first time I got the taste of like, oh, there's cultural differences here. And then I told her about that, and she thought nothing was wrong with that because she was raised in a certain culture, certain traditional values that don't align with mine. And that's something you can't really instill in people. That's something we either grew up with or we don't. And it's really hard to coach that. So I'd rather just not have that headache. Otherwise, she was a great person. Still a friend, by the way. So those are certain things. So for me, I'll just give you the list. It's values, cultural values, religious views, political views. Um, you could say friends, quality of friends. I want to look at her family. I want to see what her hobbies are. I want to see what her career is. I want to see her level of trauma. I want to see how she faces adversity. I want to take her on a trip. I want to put her in certain different situations and see how she reacts. I want to watch her eyes when we go to a bar. Is she looking at other people more than me? Because I don't want that. If I'm not your hero, and if I don't walk in and everything just goes to blur for you, I don't want you. I want somebody who looks at me like a hero. Obviously, you have to be that person as well, but I think some girls for some reason just look around too much when they should be focused on the person they already have because they're craving validation. And that's another thing. Is like, is she craving validation all the time? Does she constantly need reassurance? Does she constantly need to know where I am? Is she controlling? Those are all the logical fucking factors that no one really fucks with until they get burned a couple times. Me. So that's the most important point, the out of the three: sexual, emotional, logical. That's the most important thing when it comes to a long-term relationship. Short-term, sure, she could be whatever the fuck you want it to be. If it's short-term, it doesn't matter. Eventually, if you're aiming for long-term, successful, happy fucking relationships, make sure your values are aligned. She is who you want her or him to be before you get them, and this is how you find the right person for yourself to begin with. And if you don't do this, most of your relationship is just going to be chaos, misery, stress, anxiety, arguments, the bad arguments, not the good arguments. Like, because conflict is natural, you should fight in the right way, but I'm talking about the negative ones. And most of your relationship would just be managing expectation, constantly having boundaries, constantly crossing those boundaries, constant anger issues. And the number one thing that kills relationship is actually resentment. Because at some point, both parties stop fighting, stop arguing, and they just accept their fate. And this is where the lack of communication really kicks in. And then eventually the resentment just kills the relationship and just blows the fuck up. Resentment is probably the silent killer, like the carbon dioxide in your house that really kills you in your sleep. That's the main one. So, know who the fuck you want. And now we're gonna go into how to actually get that person. Okay. Now you understand what you want. How to get it is also a conscious effort. This will be a really quick section to get you to what you want, because this is not very hard. It's not complicated at all. Knowing what you want is the hardest part, because first you have to know yourself. But where to get it is very easy. Once you want to know, I want to eat steak today. Well, you know where to get steak. It's the same thing. You want this type of person with these type of values. And again, you don't have to overly consume yourself into this. You don't have to this is what I want and just very rigid. Just have an overview, broad kind of okay, this is the type of person I want. It's kind of like sculpting a statue. It's like you got the base down and then you can figure out the little details later. But once you kind of have a broad idea what you want in terms of relationships, what does that look like? What kind of person you want? Long-term, short-term, values, all the things we talked about before. You can then and don't get obsessed and OCD about this, writing on her oh my god, I want to get blonde hair with 3 inches of hair. No. Don't get too obsessed over the details. Just broadly know where you want. Because I really want to drive this home. People just get so obsessed. I remember when we were in business school, business courses, what I was doing, and there was a mastermind there, and people would just get so fucking obsessed with the ideal client. So they're like, yeah, he has blue eyes, and the nose has 16 hair, and it's like, dude, what the fuck kind of an ideal client is this? He's like, people just get so obsessed with dumb shit that doesn't matter. So here, don't do that. Just understand broadly what you want. You don't need to know all the answers. You just need to know kind of base level shit. And then from there, we can kind of stack things forward. As you take action, things will get more clear. So let's say you want someone that's a little bit more, for me, a little bit more traditional. Number one, you're not going to find them in a bar or a club. Maybe they went once or twice, But if they live there, that's probably not your ideal client, ideal person you want to be with, right? For me, I'm just giving you an example. You could be whatever, you can do whatever the fuck you want, and whatever makes you happy. But understanding what they do day to day, where they might be, then you can start to plan where you should be in order to meet them. Okay, the more places, and I'm talking about literally physical places. I mean, this could be online as well, but physical and online places that these people go to, hang out at. How can I be part of that? Okay, now most likely, if you know yourself, you naturally would be in those places anyways, because if you know yourself, you know what you want, naturally you're gonna just get yourself in that situation where you are meeting people that are more aligned with what you want. Okay, naturally. Now, if you are doing this for the first time and you're like, okay, I'm just getting started, I'm not naturally there, it's very easy to understand where these people are, because you'll be also internally attracted to that, and you will naturally kind of get there anyways. But you can ask yourself, where do these people hang out at, online, offline, in person, and how can I get there? It'd be a very easy answer after that. Okay, might be church. Like, your girl might be at church Sundays, like, so maybe you should join the Bible club. Okay, so once you get there, you will naturally start meeting people. Naturally, you'll start to make friends, and naturally you'll start meeting the opposite gender that is attracted to you and you're attracted to them. And then from there, you do the normal course. Just hang out with them, invite them out to things. Maybe it's a group activity, or maybe it's a one-on-one thing, and you just get to know them. You just hang out, and at some point, both parties will know that we're interested. It will click, and then from there, you can take it further, and that's basically it. But again, this is the last 10%, and people start here. You were like, okay, well, I should go to the bar, to the club, because I want to meet people. They don't do the back end things where, who am I? What do I want? Okay, now tell me, where should I go to meet that person? People just start fucking there, and then they end up in this relationship that sucks, and have a horrible divorce or a breakup, and then they wonder what happened. So that should answer it. If you have any questions, and if I didn't dive deeper into certain things, you can definitely leave it in the comment, because the more data I can get from y'all, the more I can refine this content. Okay, now we're gonna move into the next section where I'll give you the final kind of the message here. Again, this video is more about kind of the beginning of a relationship, how to find the right person for you. And this is still not as deep as I know this topic to be. I still kind of made a surface level thing. Trust me, there's a lot more to learn. There's a lot deeper things here, but this is a really good introduction for this series. Later, I'll make a separate video where we'll dive into kind of sustaining that relationship over a long haul, instead of just kind of like, how do we meet that person? But trust me, that is a lot easier to do if you have the right person to begin with. Okay, getting the right person is 80% of success, and then the 20% just maintaining it. Like, if you just get like a really nice brand new dope car, maintaining that car is a lot easier than getting some used piece of shit 50 years ago that has rust all over it. Maintaining that car is a nightmare. So it's the same principle applies here. So you go for the right thing, commit to that, things are a lot more smoother from there. So I'm gonna jump into the final message here, and then we'll end the video. Nice. So last couple of pointers is this. Number one, when you first start a relationship, it's more of a gradual buildup than a huge spike, which we mistake for real love. That's more like attraction, and really that's just like a trigger. If you like feel all high and on cloud 9 when you meet somebody, most likely what they're triggering out of you is something you don't have within yourself, which is more of a red flag than anything. If you have this high intensity thing, it's gonna crash and burn real quick, because both parties are coming from having that, again, that hole, that void they're trying to fill. So as soon as you get that void that's filled, all of a sudden, obviously, you're gonna get like cloud nine feeling. So real love is more like a gradual buildup than like this high intensity spike that most people think is love, but it's not. It's just basically you're getting your hit. You're a drug addict that's getting your hit. You haven't felt whole in a long time, and obviously, all of a sudden, people are that you met are filling your void. That's basically what it is. So if you feel that, understand it's more of a red flag than anything. Number two, I want to say the most important thing is, again, knowing yourself and asking yourself those questions. You have to face those fears. You have to face that if you have any kind of resentment and anger towards people, because that's also going to help you. Well, they'll destroy what you're going to pick. You have to let go of your neediness, this needing for comfort, this needing to be with someone, this desire to not be alone. And it all comes down to that emotional, that those intense triggers within yourself. And how you let go of that is something I'm gonna dive into some other time. But it's all there. That emotional triggers, you diving into that and letting go of it is 90% of success. Once you do that, you're clear who you are, you know yourself, you're not getting run by different things. You can just stop and pause and be with yourself and be fine. And you're not coming out of desperation and start coming out of inspiration. That's when you can clearly go for something that you want. And also, it has an intense amount of power. If you are not running away from anything, and so you don't want anything from the other person, you have intense power, because they can feel that you want nothing from them, and naturally they'll be drawn to you. You're like a magnet after that. So again, triggers, ask yourself the hard questions. You have the triggers, dive into that, let go of that, and that will reprogram your brain, and also change your belief systems. Okay. And last but not least, if you find the right person, it feels like a home than a battlefield. Okay. Now, again, I'm gonna dive into at some point, kind of the definition of love and subconscious magnet, that the subconscious compass, you can say, that draws you towards the wrong person, because growing up you have a different definition of love than what it really is. And we'll dive into all of that. But again, just understand this: if you don't feel at home, and it just feels like a battlefield, it's like a stressful thing, it's not the right relationship. And relationship, often, if it's not coming with certainty, usually it comes with confusion. So in a relationship, you feel certain, that's good, green flag. But we think if you don't feel certain, we probably feel uncertain. But that doesn't happen. You either feel certain or you feel confusion. So confusion is another indicator that you're probably in a wrong relationship. And both of you need to get out of there, fix yourselves, and then either come back later, which never happens, or find other people that you're actually meant to be with, rather than this like forceful contract that you both made out of desperation. So I'm gonna end this video here. Again, I'm gonna make a lot more deeper videos on these topics, and again, I keep talking about letting go. I'm gonna make a practical guide on that, how to actually do that practically. I won't just leave you there. I'll give you a step-by-step, just hold your hand and tell you exactly what to do so you can get those results. But we are launching a free school community where we will be teaching all of this. It will be a very structured course, and this will be just my best of the best concepts there. All the courses, everything I know, just dumped onto you completely for free. We'll be launching that soon. So in the description, you will see a link where you can submit your email. So when we do launch that, because we're working on that right now, you will have the first access right away. And I'm telling you right now, you need that access early on, because I'll be doing one-on-one Q&A with people. So if you want a spot on there, put your email down in the link, as well as if you want me to cover any kind of topics that are relating to this, letting go, spirituality, relationships, breakups are one big one I'm going to be talking about. Put them in the comments so I understand exactly how to curate this content for you, and having that data will be perfect, so that you can get what you want and I can give you exactly what you want. That being said, I'll see you on the next one, and until next time.